Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 433 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forces of the Russian invasion. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, U.S. General Mark Milley, believes that Ukrainian troops are ready for offensive actions thanks to the help of Western countries, reports Voice of America. In an interview with Foreign Affairs magazine, Milley said that Ukrainians are equally ready for offensive and defensive actions. He said that during the winter period, when the front line was relatively stable, Ukrainians asked the US for help in building up their forces so that they would have the opportunity to conduct offensive operations using armored vehicles and infantry. We did it, but it is not yet clear what will come of it, emphasized Milley. U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken said that a Ukrainian counteroffensive is being prepared in the coming weeks, reports European Pravda. In an interview with Fox News, Blinken noted that Russia has already been defeated in Ukraine in the sense that it failed to achieve its original goal, to erase Ukraine from the map. He added that the Ukrainians plan to carry out a counteroffensive in the coming weeks, on the success of which will depend the possibility of conducting negotiations with Russia, which may end in a just peace. Defense Minister of Ukraine Oleksiy Reznikov believes that the success of the upcoming counteroffensive will be of great importance for the continued ease of support from partners, reports Interfax Ukraine. He stressed that Ukraine's partners assured that they will stand with Kyiv for as long as needed, but they need to be backed by parliaments and voters in this. Therefore, of course, it will be easier for them to advocate for new aid packages for Ukraine in the presence of successful cases, said the minister. He also informed that until the end of 2023, Ukraine will be able to implement about 30 to 35% of NATO standards, as it has already implemented about 18%. He noted that none of the NATO member states has introduced 100% of the standards. On average, the maximum number of NATO standards is 30 to 40%. Reznikov said three things are generally important for joining NATO: the presence of civil democratic control, the presence of transparency, publicity, and accountability of procedures, as well as the joint planning of military operations. In his evening video address, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky informed that he held a meeting on strengthening sanctions against Russia, both Ukrainian and those of its partners. Zelensky stressed that Kyiv is closely monitoring how Moscow is trying to circumvent sanctions, recording each such direction and working together with its partners to block it. He announced that Ukraine is working on a large sanctions package, the decision on which will be made soon. We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This way more people would learn about the podcast and truth about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Ukrainian parliament, Verkhovna Rada, has adopted a statement in which it defined the existing political regime in the Russian Federation as Russism, reports Hromadske. The Rada also condemned the ideological foundations and social practices of the political regime of Russia, recognizing them as totalitarian and misanthropic. At the same time, the Ukrainian parliament appealed to the United Nations, the European Parliament, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, OSCE, NATO, governments and parliaments of foreign states to support the condemnation of the ideology, policy and practice of Russism. The Verkhovna Rada has extended the period of martial law and general mobilization in Ukraine for another 90 days, based on the president's suggestion, reports Zahidnet. Now the period of martial law and mobilization in Ukraine will last until August 18th. According to the law, both periods have to be extended every 90 days. The Prosecutor General's office informs that as of the morning of May 2nd, 478 children were killed in Ukraine as a result of the full-scale armed aggression of Russia, reports Slovo i Dilo. More than 960 received injuries of varying severity. As noted, these figures are not final. The largest number of children suffered in Donetsk, Kharkiv and Kyiv regions. Reuters informs that the US plans to announce a new $300 million military aid package for Ukraine on May 3rd, reports Liga. According to the media sources, the aid package will include 155mm howitzer guns, ammunition for HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems and howitzer guns, TOW anti-tank missiles and mortars. Also, for the first time, the US will hand over Hydra 70 short-range missiles to Ukraine. It is expected that Hydra 70 missiles can help Ukraine weaken Russian ground forces and provide Ukrainian troops with air support during counteroffensive. Denmark plans to allocate the largest aid package for the armed forces of Ukraine in the amount of about $250 million, reports Interfax Ukraine. According to the Danish Defense Ministry, the package is aimed at strengthening Ukraine's ability to conduct an offensive in the coming months. The equipment in the aid package is important for paving the way for Ukrainian tanks and armored infantry, said acting Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen. The list of assistance provided by Denmark includes armored repair and evacuation and engineering vehicles, vehicles for the construction of crossings, mine clearance vehicles, financing for the purchase of air defense, 50 million euros for NATO support with non-lethal equipment for Ukraine, ammunition for the Carl Gustav anti-tank grenade launcher. This night, Russia attacked Kyiv with Iranian-made Shahed drones, reports Ukrinform. According to the local authorities, air defense forces managed to destroy all enemy drones. No victims and destruction reported. This is the third attack in the last 6 days. The Highlights from Ukraine podcast is a commercial initiative of just two people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.